Hey everyone, this is Ron Glick and I'm coming to you from Kalispell, Montana, where I have been a political prisoner for 16 years now. 17 years now. As I'm preparing this video blog, I'm getting ready to post new content. I thought it was important to go back and talk about what's been before. And to kind of do that, I think the best way to do that is to actually show what I've recorded before. I've recorded 3 videos for YouTube in the past. Of course, anybody who might be familiar with me or is willing to go and look, I've actually written quite a bit of information on my blog, The Great Montana Conspiracy. I wrote U.S. Political Prisoners since 2004, which talks about the Kalispell corruption and what brought me to this point. Maybe you're seeing this for the first time. Maybe you're seeing this as you before. Maybe someone sent you a link from that video and it brought you to here. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're here, and I'm hoping that you're coming here with an open mind. I have to tell you right up front, this is incredibly scary for me. I've been retaliated against in the past. Obviously, I went to prison for 5 years. I've been under the thumb of corrupt officials. Ever since they released me, they've tried to put me back in prison, reset that clock for 15 years twice. I've managed to somehow skate through in each instance and stay out, but I still live under incredible restrictions, incredible fear of retaliation. And posting this information is scary for me because I'm aware that there are consequences, potential consequences. I've lived through them in the past. I expect that by posting this information, I could very well do so again. I'm not saying this to sound like some conspiracy nut. I'm saying this because I've actually lived through it. And I just want to emphasize up front, I want the information out there because it's important to be out there. Because if the information is not out there, nobody knows about it. In this blog, I'm going to make an effort to try to humanize my situation and circumstance and make you aware of what's going on with me, and hopefully be able to bring you other people's stories as well. And I very, very much want to hear from other people who've lived through similar experiences, whether it be in Montana, whether it be in North Carolina, whether it be in Brazil. I want to know what your experience has been with political imprisonment. I think it's very important up front to say that I have restrictions on who I can and cannot talk with. I can't talk to someone who's in jail, incarcerated, under supervision. They restrict my capacity to gain information. So as much as I very much want to talk to each and every one of you, and I imagine a great deal of the people I want to talk to are actually in a similar circumstance and forbidden to speak to me, I will be setting up contact information on this blog for a third party I've already worked with, and he will be able to be contacted, relay information to me, if necessary, conduct interviews that I can post on this blog, so I'm not having direct communication, I'm not having direct contact. In fact, I'm out of the loop entirely. All I will do is actually see the blogs and the information that's actually relayed here, post them to the blogs, and I'll have no contact. That's the only way I can do this, because if I hold an interview, if I talk to you, if I communicate with you, then I have no recourse other than to face consequences and go back to prison for 15 years because I'm violating the conditions that I'm being held under. So I hope you understand that in advance. And again, I please encourage you to share your stories. If you are incarcerated, under supervision, or in any manner, shape, or form restrained, I can't communicate with you not by a lack of choice, but because the very people that are holding me don't want me to communicate with you. They don't want people who've suffered similar consequences to come together with this information. That's why the third-party person I have on the outside, whose information I will be providing in this blog, on the written portion of this blog, possibly actually say his name here in the future, that will be the person that I actually want you to talk to, because he will be able to relay your information to me, and we won't be breaking any rules. I won't be having any contact with you, you won't be having any contact with me, but you'll still be able to get your information out there the same way I'm trying to get my information out there. And I hope that's important. With that said, this first video I'm posting is regarding a political election of Frank Garner. Frank Garner was the chief of police, the one who initiated the attack upon me that led to my political incarceration. He was trying to prevent his police department from being sued for malicious conduct, slandering me, trying to threaten me, intimidate me, terrorize me, before I was ever a political prisoner. When he realized that I couldn't be silenced, he obviously led to pursuing and reopening investigations, harassing me, harassing witnesses, terrorizing witnesses, and it led to a much larger scale attack that led to my political imprisonment. This is his attempt to return to political office, which he successfully did, and I hope that this information will at least give you some background and insight into the kind of people I'm dealing with. That said, would you please comment on the video and let me know, and I will get the next video ready and together for you. Thanks for your time, and I hope to hear from each and every one of you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Today is May 4th, 2014, and I'm going to read a prepared statement. I recently discovered that Frank Garner of Kalispell was running for Montana House District 7. Mr. Garner was formerly the police chief in Kalispell, and I have personal knowledge that this man is a criminal who not only ran a corrupt department, but that he personally believes that he is above the law. Mr. Garner is part of a Gestapo-style government that runs unchecked in Kalispell, Montana, and though he is no longer in office, his abusive influence still prevails here. I sued this man, and he obliterated my life and reputation rather than simply show up in court to answer the complaint. I am making this statement because I believe that Mr. Garner getting into a Helena political position would simply further spread the entrenched corruption already rampant in Montana into the state government, when what we need is someone there who will put a stop to the political abuse. My name is Ron Glick. In 2003, I have been running a youth recreations program for over 7 years. I started in Polson and moved to Kalispell in 2000. I even opened up a business downtown to better facilitate the program to the children in the community. But once I did, I also became involved in advocacy for Kalispell's youth against Kalispell's police officers who were harassing and abusing kids who hung out on Main Street at night. I have personally witnessed officers making sexual advances on teens and actually strike them with impunity. Needless to say, I was not popular with the police department, as I was encouraging the kids to speak out against this official misconduct. In July of that year, a false allegation was made against me by a girlfriend's parents. They did not approve of me dating their daughter, and had for years made up false allegations against people in her life. I was just the latest victim. An investigation was opened and concluded by both the Kalispell Police Department and the Montana Child and Family Services, but not before officers in the police department tampered with witnesses and made wholesale threats and spread malicious rumors about me amongst parents of my youth program. The police stopped investigating after 2 weeks, but both agencies dismissed the complaints as having no merit in September of 2003. I have documentation that proves this and can provide it upon request. In spite of the fact that the actual investigation was stopped, Frank Garner was responsible for provoking attacks against my business during this time. One of his officers admitted to having been sent to harass me by, quote-unquote, the chief, and the fire marshal admitted that he had been sent by Mr. Garner as well. Between the harassments, threats, and malicious defamation initiated by Mr. Garner and his department, I sent multiple demand letters to the police department and the city of Kalispell warning that I would sue if they did not cease and desist. In October, in response to escalating acts of malice by my girlfriend's parents, I sought the police records of the investigation against me to use in court against her parents. Mr. Garner himself blocked the production of these records. I had brought a copy of Montana law with me that stated that a person could request any records maintained about him by the department by simply appearing and producing identification. Mr. Garner said he did not care about the law or what it said, that he didn't have to follow it. When asked under what authority he was then keeping the records from me, his response was, "Under what authority? Because I say so, that's what authority." Following this conversation, Mr. Garner had the previously closed investigations reopened in order to further frustrate my efforts to obtain the records. Remember, there had been no evidence and the cases had been closed after thorough investigation, so Mr. Garner reopening them was only a personal attack on me because I had requested his department's records. I filed a petition on October 30th, but when harassments continued to escalate, I eventually filed a full-fledged lawsuit on November 18th, 2003, naming Frank Garner, his department, the city of Kalispell, and several other officials. The case number of this lawsuit is DV03572 for anyone who wishes to verify it. This lawsuit was never prosecuted because Frank Garner used his corrupt influence to have me jailed and sent to prison to stop it. He even threatened to arrest people who served him with the suit. 2 days after I filed the lawsuit, Mr. Garner had my girlfriend's daughters abducted, even when they both specifically said in interviews that I had done nothing to either one of them. And they were then isolated by Child and Family Services for 3 weeks until threats to not return home compelled the eldest to say I had touched her one time inappropriately. There had apparently been the belief that if my girlfriend's daughters held by the authorities, that I would stop my lawsuit. I did not, and even escalated for a default judgment on December 23, 2003, when no one responded to the complaint, presumably because they thought holding the girls hostage would stop my lawsuit. District Court Clerk Peg Allison would not allow the default judgment to be entered. I gave Miss Allison 30 days to remove her obstructions, or I would move the case to federal court. 1 week before this deadline expired, charging documents were filed against me at 4:33 in the morning, with the judge supposedly approving the documents 11 minutes later at 4:44 a.m., though there was only a stamp for the judge's approval, not a signature. As a consequence of this, I was arrested and detained without a trial or probable cause challenge for over 16 months. I was eventually given a trial in a kangaroo court with an attorney who worked for the local corrupt courts, and a manufactured witness was created. Incidentally, one who had been a client of my attorney's. This witness, by the way, whose name was Frank Ray Allen, was dead 10 days after my trial. Again, I have documents that can prove all of this. Needless to say, I was convicted and given a 5-year prison term, which I was forced to serve in full because I would not admit to a crime I did not commit. With 15 years suspended, which I have been forced to serve under probation, though I was not specifically sentenced to that. I am presently restricted under conditions that no other offender in Kalispell is under, primarily because I continue to maintain my innocence and fight to overturn this false conviction. I have been labeled as a sex offender now for over 10 years and have been subjected to wholesale hate, ridicule, and persecution, not because I committed a crime, but because I sued Kalispell and Frank Garner specifically. Everyone who has seen the real records of this case knows the truth. I have been repeatedly retaliated against for speaking out, and I may very well find myself retaliated against again for making this statement. I am a United States political prisoner and have been since 2004. I was imprisoned and remain in state custody because I sued corrupt local government, and Mr. Garner spearheaded a retaliation effort against me that has left me in state custody. In spite of the continued threats against me, I could not remain silent on this issue. I implore you, do not give this criminal, masquerading as a public servant, the ability to take his criminal misconduct to Helena. Stop him now. I implore you to elect his opponent, Ron Lee Skeets. In saying this, I realize that there are many who, for one reason or another, will not want to vote for his opponent, whether it be party lines or whatever else. But even if you don't vote for his opponent, at least enter a protest vote against Garner, and I will explain how. I ask that if you are appalled by this candidate and his capacity to commit criminal misconduct with impunity, write my name, Ron Glick, as a protest vote in the blank spot below the candidates. Don't worry, I cannot be elected. Since Mr. Garner has me labeled as a felon, I am not allowed to serve a public office. But this will send a message from the people. It will show on a single line that the people of Montana do not abide political corruption in their elected officials. I thank you for your time, and good luck.